basically, Orot Teshuva begins with Rav Kook describing different levels, different layers of Teshuva. And he says there are three kind of layers to Teshuva. One is Teshuva Tivit. The second is Emunit, so one is the natural. Second is with regard to your faith, in regard to like your outlook. And third is Teshuva Sichlit. This third is intellectual or spiritual, as you'll see in a moment. So he says when it comes to Teshuva Tivit, right, the natural Teshuva, there's two parts. There's Teshuva Tivit Gufanit and Teshuva Tivit Nafshit. So on the one hand, the Gufanit is very simple, right? Well, it's what we call Azivat Achet, right? It's saying like, you know what, this is not putting me in the right frame of mind. This is not setting me up for success in life. I got to stop doing this. I got to stop being arrogant. I have to, stop losing my temper. It's not working for me. So therefore, I'm going to try to, change my ways, right? So there's that sense of Azivat Achet, doing it because of for really a physical reason, as he's saying. He says, but there's something deeper. Yoter Pnimit, he says, Tshuva hativit hanafshit v'aruchni, right? But a deeper level is if it's coming, it's natural, and I see it's, I want to change kind of who I am, but there's more something spiritual and emotional going on inside. Huma shekorim musar klayot. He says it's kind of like what they call like the morality of your insides, your kidneys, right? Your kidneys function as a filter, right? It's recognizing teva hanefesh enoshit hulaleches b'derech yeshara. He says that really the nature of our souls is to do the right thing. Lasod yashar b'nei Hashem. Hatov, not hatov yashar, that he wants to do, but hatov yashar b'nei Hashem. And it could be controversial, right, in the world at large to say that really our natural inclination is to do good, right? Rousseau would probably disagree with that, right? But deep down, we believe, right, that neshama is good. Elokai neshama shenatata bi torahi. It's pure. And that's what we want to do. Ukeshesar min haderech, keshenafal b'chet, and when you stray from the path and you fall in sin, if your soul hasn't been totally corrupted, and then, a part of you, there's something like, I want to do the right thing. You're really pushing yourself. You could think Freudian, here, there's a part of you, right, the ego, the superego, right? The superego is like pushing, like, I want to do the right thing, and you feel really upset. There's a dissonance that you experience spiritually, and he said, I want to do better. And you're pushing yourself to try to fix that which was that which went wrong. Until you get to a point where you feel like, you know what, my sin is dissolved. Like I feel better about myself spiritually. So this is really complicated. This is really, it's misubach. It's really complicated. It's dependent on so many different factors, both internal factors and external factors in your life. There are so many different ways that you could actually be steered wrong in this case. Meaning, what he's saying is that this is one of the pillars of what Teshuva stands on, but it's really difficult, right? To say I'm just not feeling it, I'm not feeling right, and I want to do better, I have to do better. It's difficult, right? Meaning, so it's more of like, instead of just behavioral, right? It's more like sort of cognitive, spiritual, really trying to get to the core of the matter and to figure out how I can fix things. It's more because it's more about feel. It's more about chush. I feel like I'm not in a good place. I feel like I'm straying from the path. It's like the end of the Asham news, right? The end of the Asham news. What do we say? Right? And then we finish up and we say Ta'inu, Titanu. Right? Ta'inu, we've erred, we've gone on the wrong path. Titanu, and you've allowed us, Hashem, to go astray. Meaning, it's like where you're at this point, you just feel like you're on the wrong path, and it's hard to figure that out. especially on your own, right? That's why he's saying you need internal factors in terms of your own moral compass, and there are external factors. You have the right rabbis, you have the right teachers. Are you in the right environment? Are you in the right Jewish community, in the right social construct to be able to do that which is right? So he says after this type of tshuva, and it's important, I think it speaks to what we're about to go to if you're going next door. Achrei tshuva tivit baha emunit comes the tshuva of faith. Hi achaya ba'olam mimakor ha'mesoret ve'hadat she oseket arbei b'tshuva haTorah mavticha l'shavei fesha slicha. You have to believe that God actually will grant you forgiveness. That's emunah. There has to be a belief, there has to be a faith that you can do this. That the sins of the individual and of the community are dissolved, are erased through tshuva. The Nevi'im talk about it, right? It's all over the Torah. You have to believe that. If you don't believe that, if there's no tshuva of your emunah, right, to say like, I could do this, I actually believe that Hashem can help me wipe away my sins, you're gonna, how are you gonna actually do tshuva? What are you really doing? You're making yourself a better person, but are you connecting to Hashem in that way, or are you just doing it because you hope that your business will succeed better and things will go better for you in general? Then he says that tshuva hasichlit hi ota shekvar rachsha la et hativit va'emunit, and then he says there's this intellectual type of tshuva that comes after you've already inherited, you've already ingrained within you this natural and faithful tshuva. Shekvar bala madriga ha'elyonim, on a higher level. Asher lo rak tsar gufani o nafshi v'ruchani. You're not feeling this physical or spiritual, emotional kind of distress. V'lo rak hashpa'ada masor v'akabah. It's not just that Hashem's coming at you and you feel like the Nevi'im speaking to you and you're like, I need to do better, right? And Hashem promised I could do better. Imi pachad onesh o roshem kol davar chok u'mishpat haba mehen el pnima nefesh, right? You're afraid from, something might happen to you, some punishment might come to you in a spiritual way. Gormim hemet tshuva ki im hakara brura. So this comes from a clear recognition haba'am mehashkafat ha'olam ve'achayim ha'shlema, that comes from your outlook on the world and life in general. Asher alta lema'alata acharei asher tafkira tivia emuni kvar rashmu ba yafet rishomea, to the level where you're like, I understand life. I could look at life and I understand if I act this way, this is going to happen, and if I behave this way spiritually, I'm not going to grow. Tshuva Zui says haklula me hakodmot. This tshuva of sichlit, right, intellectual, that comes from an understanding or a recognition of all these other pieces that we spoke about. Himalaya kvar or ein kates. It's filled with an infinite light. Hiba lahafechet hachataim kulam lezchuyot. It comes to literally turn sins into merits, into mitzvot. Mikol hashgiyot hi motzia limudim niskavim. So that what happens is you realize that you're going to mess up, that you're going to sin. It's a very mature way of looking at the world, right? Ein adam asher yaseh tov v'lo yechta, right? David HaMelech says, or Shlomo HaMelech says, it's impossible. You can't just, we're going to sin, right? But you recognize that through the mistakes that you make, right? That through the sins that you make, that through the things that happen, you're going to make things better, right? Those things happen for a reason, and you're going to grow from them. Umikol hashpalot aliyot nehadarot, and from every yeridah, from everything, every time you're downgraded, every time you're downcast, every time you perhaps fall down, there are going to be great ways to get up. After that, it's yeridah shein letzorach aliyah, right? It's a descent that will ultimately lead to an ascent. Zod hi atshuva she'enei kol eleha nisuat shehi muchrechet lavo v'shesofa lavo. This is the tshuva that everyone should be looking for. Ultimately, that if you play your cards right, it has to happen, and ultimately that's what will happen to us by definition. If we live our lives understanding that there's a God in the world, that there's a God that's guiding our ways, that there's a God that's put us in a situation that we're in, even if it's a very difficult and a harrowing situation. Ultimately, we have to believe and we know that there's a Yeridah and then there's going to be an Aliyah. And, Meretz Hashem, we should all be zochet to that personally, but on a communal and a national level, we as a people need to be zochet to that as well. Nafla, right, that we've fallen, but to understand, right, that nafla velo tosif, we won't stop falling anymore. Kum bitulat Yisrael. It's time to arise, the daughter of Israel. And Amir Hashem, we're going to hear next door from a daughter of Israel who's been through hell, and Amir Hashem, through all of us and our support and our love and our connection and advocacy for Am Yisrael, we'll get back from that. And Amir Hashem, we should be on an even higher Ramah than we've ever found ourselves before.